So I think before she pulls up, I think what we want to do is we want to use this slide as a, this session as a kickoff for the Stanford Alumni Mumbai Group for Actionable Sustainability. I think this whole kind of idea came to me from a visit to Paris with Pratima when she led a workshop out there. And Paris has got heritage as their main focus, and they believe that heritage should be lived every day. In the same way, if we want to make a difference about climate change, we have to live sustainably
All over
every day.
internet lagay.
So what we are doing out here is a number of things. First, we are going to start off this with 4 quick talks and give you hacks out there. And we want all of you involved out here so that I want all of you to share hacks. What you have in mind, will curate it and put them on so that you can use it in your daily life. And then at the end of the year, we'll take a stock of it in a very interesting way, which I'll just come to. The second thing we are going to do is that we want to have a green book and a movie club, which Serafina has kindly agreed and I ideated to lead and curate it. So I think she'll talk a little bit about it. Then we want to have a couple of DIY workshops on organic food and composting, which will which will be led by Serafina and Monisha on eco waste management, and a couple of field trips on sustainable water, urban gardening. And the last session we want to have with this group is regarding living sustainability hackathon. We want to gather over a weekend and divide up into groups and come up with solutions of some sustainability problems. So that'd be a lot of that'd be a lot of fun to do that. And once that happens, I think we want everybody to get involved and contribute in their own ways. There is no right or wrong, but I think if you think about it, align your thinking and live sustainability every day, I think that's a big victory for all of us. So that's how we are going to be starting. Pratima, all yours.
Thanks, Ravi. Monisha, do you want to add a few words?
Yeah, hi everyone, and we want to actually thank Satyan for putting us all together, making this happen, which was on my mind for a while, and I'm really excited to launch the Stanford Alumni Group Sustainability Forum. I think what we've put together, we will share today, but the whole idea of the club is to create eco-consciousness among us as a community, to come together to have this green hat on as we live our lives, day-to-day lives, and to carry this practice of living sustainability in our work or at home with our families. And we hope that through the year of a lot of interaction and engagement, we can really create a eco-conscious group that could do some benchmark projects for the world to see. And I think what we're really looking forward to post-lockdown or where we can all meet and move is to show you some live role model projects. So today we'll share some glimpses, but the idea is to take you and make you commune with nature, go out, see gardens, see the composting facilities, experience green living practically. So that's what we have in store ahead of the year.
Thank you, Manisha. Serafina?
Hi, yes, you guys, I think, covered most of the points well, and I'm excited to be working with you guys on this and to have everyone in the Stanford Alumni Group involved. Yeah, today I'm going to focus on how we can reconnect to nature through food, and I'll give some ideas for how city dwellers like us can live in healthier and more sustainable ways.
Thank you. So, what we hope to do is make living more accessible. So we're actually going to share with you specific hacks that you can apply in your everyday life to become more greener. And we have 4 very quick presentations where we're going to focus on very important themes. One is on water, which Ravi is going to talk about. Then we have Monisha, who's going to speak about waste, how to be green with your waste, and Serafina is going to speak about food and sustainability, and I'm going to end it with cities and built environment and how that can allow us to be more green. Before we start the presentation, and Ravi is going to start this off, can I request all of you to mute your mics so we don't have any background noises? Can the chair do that? Can we mute everybody's mics and keep only Ravi's on? And Ravi, you can start to share your screen.
Yeah, Ajay, I'll need your help on that, please. Yeah.
And I'm gonna, please pay attention to the presentation and especially the hacks that he's gonna describe, because we're gonna gamify it, and whoever comes out on top with that will have some really great prizes and gifts after this lockdown is over, including Ravi. We should decide also during this session what those prizes would be. So I can see the screen. Thanks, Ravi.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Pratima. I'm just going to start on talking about sustainability of water resources, India's contradictions and practical solutions. I think India is an enigma everywhere as we see it. There are lots of very interesting things happening out here in water, as well as very stupid things also happening. So let's talk about it a bit. So I'm going to motivate the subject about some thoughts about water. Are they true or false? And this comes with whether India's water needs can be met with or without desalination. That's one of the statements I'm making. Water is an economic resource and it should be priced for all the uses. So this, we will kind of talk a little bit about it in this particular presentation. The next one is India's agri sector is par excellence. We produce bumper crops every year, second largest producers of agri commodities in the world today. The next one is water across the country is clean and does not require any further cleaning. We all know that Ganga cleans itself. Reverse osmosis is a technology to clean water and which is most appropriate for India. What do you think about this? The last one is that rainwater harvesting should be made mandatory. So I'm just kind of motivating the subject with some of these statements and something to think about, and we'll revisit them once I've gone through the presentation. So first I'm going to talk about the supply of water in India. And if you look at it, we are getting about pretty regularly about 4,000 billion cubic meters or cubic kilometers of water every year in a reasonable manner, plus minus 20% at best. The average precipitation which occurs in about 1/4 of the year is about 3,000 cubic kilometers, and 1,000 cubic kilometers comes the other way, something like snow and such things and unseasonal rains. And the main thing is that about half of that runs away into either the Arabian Sea or the Bay of Bengal. And that also is a very important thing because the runoffs are very much required to trigger the southwest monsoon. The estimated utilizable surface water resources about 700 cubic kilometers and groundwater of the order about 450 kilometers. And we are using about 1100 to 1200 cubic kilometers of water out here. The quality of water is also an area of major concern for us. And the quality varies basically based on three major geographic areas of India. One is the upper Indo-Gangetic plain, where it is mostly kind of a sandy soil and the groundwater is pretty deep out there. And that's a very much an area of concern out here. The second one is, of course, the Deccan Peninsula, which is pretty hard rock, and water which has percolated down out there has done so over many centuries. So what we are really getting out of there is basically historic or fossil water. And then there are the hilly regions in the Himalayas which get a lot of rain and snow, and the coastlines along India also get a lot of rain, just like what we are experiencing here in Mumbai and Konkan today. The quality varies across this, and one of the major areas of concerns are arsenic in eastern India and Rajasthan, where it can lead to a lot of problems in cancer. Fluoride, which is occurring now pan-India, and all these are because of geological conditions. It's not because of anthropogenic reasons or man-made reasons. Iron also happens to be present in water in East India and Assam, and the eastern states. Nitrates in Western India has kind of emerged as one of the contaminants, mainly from fertilizer byproducts. And salinity is increasing acutely in Rajasthan and slowly increasing in central India too. And this is also because of over exploitation of groundwater. And biological contaminants are present pan India across the board. And in fact, North India is especially very, very affected all along the banks of River Yamuna and Ganga. So I think these are the issues with supply of water in terms of quality and the quantity. On the demand side, what we see is that agriculture consumes about 82% of water, 82% of all the available water. And I think the last numbers, what I saw is people are saying it's about 86%. And this is a very alarming trend and something which will have to be addressed going forward. The potable water is only about 5% of the use. Industry uses about 6%. And this is also of concern because if industry has to grow and the economic activity has to grow, we will need water resources. The power sector, mainly hydropower, also has about 6% consumption, and in other uses, it's about a 1% consumption. The key features of the water supply and demand in India is that we get majority of the precipitation in 3 months from June to September, like the monsoons what we are having right now. There is a significant variation throughout the country in terms of how much rain does it get. And 50% of this rain is basically flowing into the seas on either side of our nation. And agriculture is by far the largest consumer of water, 10 to 12 times more than the other uses. And there are huge differences in water profiles across the countries, which implies that the solutions, what we require for every region, are different and they have to be customized to the needs of what we are doing. So it can bring in a lot of creativity and a lot of interesting solutions which are very sustainable, but we should have the will of it to implement them. The last point is the sewage, which is basically what happens to the water after it's used. And this is brewing to be a public health crisis in India. And the reason for that is that we generate about 78 billion liters of sewage every day, but only we treat 30% of it. That is about 23 billion liters. And this is very alarming because the untreated sewage flows out and it contaminates our freshwater sources. It becomes a public health nuisance and increases the carbon footprint in terms of cleaning up our good water sources. So we have to be very careful about this, and this is an area of enormous concern about here. Sewage has received no attention at all out here because it's perceived as a product, rather more it is perceived as a nuisance. And as I said, somebody told me, is that it's a nuisance to be acted upon in the cheapest possible way. And as we know that the cheapest possible way is basically making sure that you grease somebody's palm and get the right kind of quality report, and there you go. So that's been a pretty common trend across the board, but we really will need to act on this particular part for having a better and a sustainable living with water. If I look at some facts about water in India, historically water belonged to the landowners. The owners of water rights do not care what's happening upstream or downstream of it. Most communities lack easy access to water. That's why the Jal Shakti ministry is trying to get access to water to everybody. No city in India has got 24/7 pipe water. And unlike developed countries, most of the water is unsafe to drink here directly from taps. Yeah, India is the second largest agri producer in the world, but our productivity is dismal. It's about 45% of the world average with respect to water as a parameter. Thus, we are really exporting water as an agri commodity, and most of our water sources are getting contaminated now. So there is more than enough water. The key issue is that we have failed to manage water. And agricultural water is something of alarming out here because it's free to the farmers. The water is priced in urban areas in a very, very cheap way. In Bombay, we pay about 5 rupees and 20 paise per every 1,000 liters. And not valuing the water appropriately is leading to poor supply, poor quality, and a lot of waste. So if I look at a holistic sustainability framework, there are three elements to it. One is the concept part, which includes behavior, management, and technology. And I feel that these are the kind of weightages which should be given for India, where the behavior change with respect to knowledge, how do you treat water, etc., deserves a lot more attention than technology. Management of water is also very important, which is done very poorly out here. It is done in a very ad hoc and a very short-term manner. So we need to think a little long-term on that, and technology will play a role, but thankfully we are not as badly contaminated as some of the developed nations. The planning stage is very important to vision the exercise, because a country like Singapore thinks about a 100-year vision. When the British set up the Bombay water networks, they thought about a 150-year vision. So that's very, very important. The policy part needs a lot of rework also out here. And I think a model example is Israel, where water was a crisis and they literally had a separate agency to look at water. And science has to be there for any kind of decision making out here, because water is the most complex material, most underappreciated material, and most wasted material. And execution of this should happen through education, reduce, reuse, and recycle framework. And I think that will really help us achieve water security and water stability. So I'm going to talk about quickly about three cases which are very important to us in our daily lives. One is water in daily life, where we done a project on communicating water with data. This was to increase the awareness of all aspects of water. So we analyzed the problems for water in Mumbai societies, and we looked at the water problems through something akin to the air quality index called water quality index, which was developed based on the Indian drinking water standards. And this use some statistical algorithms to communicate quality with the water idea. And what we see on the right side out here is we came up with 3 codes for different scores. So if you have a good score, you're getting a green code, so you can really see that water is good for every use. You have an amber score or amber color when you see that you require about a little bit of treatment, such as cleaning of your tanks, etc. If it is orange or red, it's bad. Better look at the whole thing and sort that issue out. And these are the parameters which are basically looking at the data which I've done, but I'll not go through that. The main findings were that most of the contamination in water occurs in the society and not because of the BMC infrastructure. The society infrastructures are very poorly maintained. And the cause of contamination was mainly because of the old pipes which were broken or which were leaky. As a result, the sewage flowed into that. And this has led to public health issues like dysentery and other waterborne diseases and leakages and wastage. The hack for this is basically have your society audit or your water infrastructure, upgrade the infrastructure and make it robust, and maintain the infrastructure and monitor the quality every couple of weeks. And that would be really good. And thus the implication would be a reduction in leakage, awareness about water quality, and improved public health. If I look at the second hack, it's about second case, it's about the RO solution. Is RO the solution for water purification in Mumbai? And my one line answer is no. And the reason for that is RO was developed for recovering potable water from seawater or brackish water in regions where there was no fresh water. That is Israel, Middle East, on ships, etc. The economics of RO are very poor. It's a very energy intensive technology. We recover only 1 out of 3 liters of water. Rest is wasted. Maintenance costs are very high, and and recently our Supreme Court has also banned RO for water sources with less than 500 milligrams of salts in it. In Mumbai case, the BMC water is one of the world's best water we get out here. It's excellent. It comes from the lakes in Vaitarna and Nashik region. It's got an ideal mineral content between 65 to 155 milligrams per liter, depending on the time of the year, and hardness levels between 20 to 65 milligrams. The salt content, it's almost like distilled water it makes. And that has got a negative impacts on health in terms of leaching of minerals out of our body, etc. So it's really not a best thing for Bombay. What we need for Bombay is something which removes dirt, biological contaminants, and retains salt. So the best solutions for these are UV with microfilters or ultrafiltration, which is really an excellent solution for this. And the last one I'm going to talk about is like a lot of people have got their holiday homes in areas like Alibag, Lonavala. So what I want to look at is how much water, what is the water footprint on this particular aspect when you can construct a weekend home. So one is that the uses of water, if you look at one home which is spread over an acre, for domestic purpose, we only use about 5% to 10%. Landscape takes the majority of the chunk at 65%, swimming pools take about 25%, and other uses are a little less. So every household uses about 1.5 lakh liters of water per month. That's 18 lakh liters per year. And the main sources of water are either different kinds of wells, lakes, rivers, or tankers. And the impact of building a weekend home is that for 1 acre farmhouse, we basically the land is devoid of about 33 lakh liters of water per year because of the increased runoff due to hard surfaces, which we create like house plinth or roads, etc. And we use about 18,000 liters of water per year for our personal consumption. So if I multiply this for 10 houses, we will basically, the land is devoid of 3.3 crore liters of water, 100 houses, about 33 crore liters of water. So intervention for water savings are quite simple. Rainwater harvesting and ground recharge should be mandatory. Use drip irrigations, it saves about 30% water, 60% water. Use robust infrastructure and use swimming pool covers, so that will save about 15% water. So I'm just revisiting the thoughts about water, and I think the color coding implies that whatever we are seeing out here, the rainwater part, I would talk about it a little differently because it's got a different context in urban areas. And lastly, I'll just share some practical hacks. So I say that if you reduce your shower times by 30 seconds, you'll save about 17,500 liters per family per year. And the math is also given out here. If you adjust your 2 meals a week with millet instead of rice or wheat, you will save a significant amount of water because millets consume far less water compared to wheat or rice. If you look at a reusable water bottle, per person will save about 700 liters per year. And rainwater harvesting, if you do it for your holiday home, it will improve your water security and quality. If you want to really promote a CSR idea, just look at sewage treatment in rural area, and that will really help you do a lot of impact and sustainability measures in the rural area. Thanks for this.